Okay, common thoughts. So this lady was saying how um for women who are, I guess, getting married for the second time, when did you realize that um I guess the question she was posing was, when did you realize that you were the one, and what made you realize that you were going to accept him even though you're coming in, he's been married before, and he maybe said whatever he has to say about his exes or his ex-spouses. What made you decide to go ahead and with him, with the marriage, being that you're coming in as a second spouse?
I want to ask all the second wives who are now divorced from their husbands. You were the second wife of that person. What was the story you fell for? What was the pity party? What was the manipulation? What was the lie that you were told to get you to marry this person? Did you feel sorry for them? Was there something with the children? Was there woe is me? They needed help. What was it about this man that drew you in so that you became the second wife and now you're divorced? I want to know, how did they get you?
I am the second wife to a man that was never getting remarried, and I was 18 and he was 34 when we first met and started dating, and we have been together for over 14 years and married for over 10 of those. And I'm going to give some second wife confessions in this video. Marriage is hard to begin with. My husband's first wife walked out on him and shattered his heart. Marriages always change a relationship, and I think it's interesting how a lot of people don't think that when you go from being boyfriend and girlfriend to being married, it doesn't change things, because it really does. And if you're the second marriage, it changes things even more. Building trust back is a really big thing in a second marriage, and being able to know that you are accountable to your partner and that what you say is true is a big factor in that. One of my number one confessions is that some arguments that you have once you're married and you're the second wife is that some of the things that come up are actually going to be because of past traumas that don't involve you, but there's something that that individual lived through, so they're insecure in that moment. How you react to that trauma in that situation in an argument will make or break a second marriage. You won't share as many firsts in a second marriage as the first marriage had. For example, we're currently trying to conceive, and this would be my first biological child and my husband's third. And it's a fault of mine, not of his in any way, shape, or form. But there are times that I consider, what is it going to be like for his reaction when I tell him that we're expecting, because he's already gone through that already with his first wife. So he's had that first time, first experience, whereas I have not. And that's my own insecurity, not his, because he's going to be excited because I just know who he is and how he is as a person. That's my insecurity. We live in a society that's very pro-divorce. My dad was an incredible sounding board when he was alive and in the early parts of our marriage when we would struggle with different conflicts, and was there for both of us and never took any sides. And my husband and I have also done counseling because my dad was a huge proponent of pre-marriage counseling for all of his kids, no matter if it was a first or second marriage, for either of the spouses going into it. Not only did my husband have zero intentions of ever getting remarried, but he also had zero intentions of ever having any other children. But that's another story for another day.
You were the second.
As somebody who was married for 20 years, I don't know if that's going to happen again. Because as soon as you said second wife, I was like, it just doesn't set well right here. You know what I'm saying? The thing is, I like being bent over. Yep. But being bent over and chained to the barrel, that's a hostage situation. I don't see myself ever getting into another hostage situation. Okay? What's funny is I think my ex would say the same thing. I don't know. And it's not about cheating. It's not about just one person. Monogamy is my jam. It's monogamy or nothing. Like, I don't have this rotation or anything. It's just the hostage situation is
The second wife of that person. What was the story you fell for? What was the pity party?
So I want to preface this by saying that me and my ex-husband are very good friends. We get along great. And there is, this is more just a warning to people that start dating someone who has been divorced. By no means am I saying you shouldn't date a divorced person, because I don't know, there's so many of us now. And we've all been through our own things. But a word of caution that I wish I had paid attention to when I was in my 20s when I met my ex-husband. So basically, I met him within a year of his divorce being finalized from his first wife. They've been married for a very short amount of time. She basically decided she didn't want to be married to him, and she's the one who pursued the divorce, and she's the one that abandoned him and left. That's his side of the story, as he likes to tell it. Excuse me, I'm sick. Anyway, and so there wasn't really anything for me to fall for, but he did paint her in not the best light when we first started dating, and I wish in retrospect that I had pursued that a little bit more, maybe try to get her side of the story, or, waited to hear him clarify a bit more early on, and say how he was responsible for that. I think identifying how we are accountable and why our partners are not happy with us and why they leave. Yes, a lot of the times it's the individual, but, sometimes it's you. And I think if you're in a marriage and it ends and you in no way can be like, this is one or two of the ways that I maybe could have done better or contributed to the situation in a better way so that divorce didn't happen, you're being delusional, right? And so I think, in retrospect, I wish I had pursued that more early on. I do, after, our more than decade of time together in each other's lives and being best friends, know that he had a lot of undealt with trauma and hurt from her that constantly trickled into me. I was constantly being compared to her through our entire relationship, from dating all the way up through our divorce process, even recently. And so, being the second wife is tough. And so I would recommend, if you're talking to someone and they have been divorced, just really check in and see if they have done the work. Have they healed? Have they processed? Do they speak of that person with hurt and anger in their voice, or do they sound like a person who has healed? And I think that's a really important thing to note. And like I said before, I love my ex-husband. We're good friends. We've gone through a rough patch here lately, because of things to do with me, with the whole dating and everything. But that's our personal business. But and I know he doesn't like me to share his stuff, but I just do think it's a fair warning that, you should do your homework. Even if they seem like a great person, look out for every single red flag and talk about those red flags early on. And that's all.
You were the second wife of that person. What was the story you fell for? What was the pity?
When my ex-husband got married for the second time, it was an arranged marriage. And hands down, his family would have said to that girl in India that, the first marriage, she was a bitch. She didn't cook, she didn't clean, she didn't respect him. She just wanted to go out. And my ex-husband, if you asked him, how come your first marriage didn't work out? He'd just say we were young and stupid. And when I spoke to him a couple of years ago, he was like, you know what, you didn't even take anything. Because I didn't take anything from his property or whatever. And I was like, oh my God, and you still see the good in me? Because I left him, broke his heart. So it's not like the guys are always wankers. Of course he has some part to play in our breakup, of course, right? But not always is it that the guys are wankers. Sometimes I could be a right wanker.
The thing that I kind of learned from everything is different women have different views. So a lot of them would think that, that's his situation with that person, but for me, it's going to be different. Every person thinks that it's going to be different with them. And so they go in thinking that they are going to be the new spouse and the last spouse, and it's going to be better with them. But one thing I've always noticed, being around in this life and seeing how people are in observation, if he says that she's crazy, you might be the crazy one when things fall out with you. So that was pretty interesting perspective. What do you think in the comments? Let me know, what do you think in the comments? If you would take somebody that's been married before, what would convince you to be the second, I guess, to take somebody who has been divorced? And would you believe what they say about their exes? And also, do you think that women should, in vetting people, they should ask a reference, like find out who his ex-wife is or his ex-girlfriend is and talk to her and listen to her side? You know, in our culture, we don't really do that. And people think, well, that's their situation and I'm different. But maybe that might be something that women can do, because, you know, nobody's special, right? And as some of these women are saying in their situation, nobody's special. What do you think in the comments?